Welcome to Lake Huron, one of the 5 Great Lakes. Stretches from the shores of Ontario all the way to the state of Michigan. It got its name from the early French explorers, who named it after the indigenous people they knew as the Huron. But today, we're not going to be talking about the lake and its history. We'll be looking into Alexander McNeill, who was an early Canadian politician. We'll look into how his policies helped shape Canada and his old estate named the Corran, where he used to host fancy parties, and we'll go find and see what's left of it. So join me on this journey. First, let's step back to 1889 and the Noble 13. Alexander was one of the 13 Conservative MPs who broke with their party to oppose the Jesuits bill. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's the issue with that? Well, the problem was that it was Quebec that wanted to compensate the Jesuits with $400,000 for lands that were lost after the British conquest. And McNeill was against it because he was a Protestant, and he saw it as a dangerous boost to the Catholic influences. His speeches and letters to Prime Minister MacDonald called for the resistance, earning him the Noble 13 name among his supporters who valued his undying stance. The bill aimed to settle old land claims, but McNeill and his allies feared it gave too much power to the Catholic Church in Quebec. He argued it undermined British character of Canada, and his opposition was fierce. It was rooted in his belief that the Protestants' values should guide the nation. Fast forward to 1896, and we reach the Manitoba school question. The issue was Manitoba's abolition of publicly funded Catholic schools in 1890, followed by federal pressure to restore them. McNeill spoke out against this legislation, rallying crowds in Wyerton. And you might ask, well, why was he opposed? Well, he believed a single, non-sectarian school system would better serve the province's Protestant majority, aligning his vision with a unified Canada under the British principles. From his estate, he'd address supporters, and his voice was driven by a conviction forged in his political battles. On our way up to the Corran, I'll read a little bit from the book, The Day the Governor General Came to Town. It has a really good description of what the estate would have looked like in its heyday. And I'll have it up on screen, and you can pause if you would like to read a little bit more. On Dominion Day, 1901, a long line of steady carriages paraded north down the main street of the port village of Wyerton. The coachmen urged their well-groomed teams up the steep slope out of the community, and upon reaching the crest of the escarpment, turned through great stone gates onto a scenic half-mile lane, which opened onto a broad view of blue water, manicured lawns, and gracious buildings. The destination of the procession was the Corran, the magnificent 17-room stone mansion that was at the heart of the estate of Alexander McNeill, Member of Parliament for North Bruce, supporter of the Empire, and member of the Imperial Federation League, one of the Noble 13 who opposed Sir John A. Macdonald, friends of poet, country gentleman supreme. It would be a garden party that few would ever forget. As the evening mist crept from the Georgian Bay, 125 feet below, the guests moved inside the manor house to talk, to gossip, to laugh among the Lord's collections of rare oriental carvings, ancient weapons, tapestries, and book-lined walls. The pride of the gardens were the roses. 500 rose bushes of all types blossomed on the lawns. Among them were black roses from Ireland, black roses cut and transplanted from a bush under which Mary, Queen of Scots, slept the night before her execution. Beds of roses bloomed brightly under the limb of hundreds of pear, apple, and plum trees. And again, feel free to pause and read the rest of the story here. It's very interesting to read and find out what the estate once looked like, with all the politicians gathering and all the influential people discussing politics of the day. It would have been quite the sight to have been there and to witness that firsthand. As well, it goes on to say that his son, Malcolm, unfortunately wasn't really able to maintain the property like his father was, and eventually vandals broke in and burnt the place down, and that's why all we have left today is just the stone walls. But again, it would have been quite the sight back in 1901 to have been there on the lawn and witnessing all the events of the day. So here we are at the Corran, and as you can see, it's seen better days. So what you're seeing here is the main stairs up. And as you walk up these stairs, this all here would have been a veranda where they would have sat out, maybe entertained company, had teas, drinks. Then as you walk in the front door here, to your left, you would have had the library. And you can see on the wall here, they used to have a fireplace going up. And as we turned around here, out this would have been a door here. And right next to the veranda, you would have had a solarium, sort of a outside room that would be screened in to let sun in. Maybe you could bring a book out there and read it. Right here around the picnic table, there would have been a wall. And this area right here would have been a parlor. You know, entertaining some guests with some drinks, that sort of thing. Back in here would have been the kitchen. And again, you can see at the end of the wall, they would have had a fireplace going up. And right here, you can make out the wood in the wall. These had stairs going up, all the way up to the second level. And coming back around behind us here, again, there would have been a wall right here. And this would have been the dining room. And right here in this hole in the wall, they used to have a fireplace here. And it would go straight up to the second floor. But all that has been lost to time now. There's not much here, no signs of the gardens or fruit trees. It's all just been overgrown. If you can imagine, on the second floors, they would have had multiple bedrooms up there. The master bedroom would have been in that corner. Would have had more dressing rooms and servants' quarters. This would have been quite the grand place. And here's a map showing what the main floor and second floor would have looked like. So here we are at the Edge Hill Cemetery. During my research, I found papers stating that Alexander was buried in here But when I searched online for his grave, I wasn't able to find it. So we're gonna go in there and hopefully we can find his grave. So let's go. And now here lies Alexander, and his son Malcolm is buried with him. The tombstone also pays tribute to his wife, who died many years before in 1890, as well as Elizabeth, who Malcolm gave the family estate to after he passed. Alexander was a lawyer and a politician, and he even went against the party leader, Sir John A. Macdonald, earning him the title, the Noble 13. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and stay tuned for more stories just like this one.